Well, good morning. This is Ginny Olerud Williams sitting here with me, and we're going to talk about her. We're going to talk about Gilsville, how it came to be, about her daddy, about our history together. And if you've got anything you want to add later on, hit us up on Facebook page, and we'll talk about that too. So, Jenny, how's it going this morning?
It's cold outside today.
Very cold outside today too, yeah. Jenny, you and I met with probably about 1973 with the JCs, and we did a lot of stuff for the JCs. We did Christmas shopping, as best I recall. We delivered food baskets for Thanksgiving and Christmas, and we were at that old building on Richardson Street.
Yes, it came from it's part of the base property, wasn't it?
I believe it was. They moved it from the base over there.
Yeah, and now the Nurse Food Bank is near it too.
Yeah, and she, I can't think of the lady's name, but she used to wrap Christmas presents for needy children in that building after we left it.
Okay.
So it's had a lot of uses, and I really actually am surprised it's still standing, but it is. It's still up there.
Yeah.
But we did a lot for Smyrna with the JCs, and we did a lot for Smyrna with the community service, and then we did the Christmas parade.
Yeah, and Marty, you started the Christmas parade, but isn't it good it's carrying on? Like the town of Smyrna took over the Christmas parade, the Smyrna Police Department, Fraternal Order of Police, took over the gift shopping and wrapping and distributing food baskets, and then Nurse Food Bank, and of course we got our churches in town that do good works.
Right.
But JCs used to do it. J-Sets. We were
J-Sets. I was fixing to bring that up.
Yeah.
You were a J-Set, and the reason why? Because women weren't allowed in the JCs.
That's right. And we liked having our own club, doing the girly things.
Yep, doing the girly
thing.
But y'all weren't allowed in the Rotary either, and I don't think you were allowed in the Lions Club either.
No, but things have changed now.
Boy, they have now. Y'all run it now, don't you? But we met a lot of people working in the JCs that are still friends with us today.
Yes, and that was a while back. Yeah, you said 70s.
2, 3, 4, somewhere in there.
I remember one project, the Bicentennial.
Oh yeah, 76. Oh boy, do I ever.
Yeah. That was fun. I think weren't you in charge of that? Or?
Yeah, I was.
I thought you were.
Well, Walter Hoover was supposed to be in charge of it.
At his age, maybe.
And I don't know why, but he said, "This is on you." He didn't use his exact words, but he said, "You need to take over." So
he's a character.
We did. We had a bicentennial parade, and if you remember, we had horse racing where the post office is today.
Yeah.
We built a horse racing track and had a big party down there.
It was just a big empty field then, wasn't it?
Yeah. Well, those were fun days. We could get away with about anything back in those days,
Yeah.
So, we had the bicentennial in 76, which was awesome.
Oh, yeah, 76. I was trying to...
And let's see, what else did we do? We had a lot of other good projects, too. But you've got a board up here with pictures on it. Do you want to talk about those?
Yeah. So in 2013, we celebrated 60 years in business, my family in Smyrna. Of course, the way I keep up with how long we've been in business is the week I was born, my dad bought the first little grocery store.
And that's the one over here across the street, right?
Right. It's where Air Systems is, and it's just a little country store with 2 little gas pumps there. And
really coincidental, wasn't that street named Gil Street?
Yes, they named it Gil Street. Anyway, he was still in the Air Force. He thought he was going to be out of the Air Force, and he found out that he had till December. And back then, and I still call the airport, and I know you probably do too, the base.
Yep, I do. I call it the base.
I'll say the base, and I mean the airport. But anyway, and we're so lucky to have something like that. And John Black does such a great job as the executive director. But I was doing some research on Ancestry.com and you can pull up newspaper articles. So I pulled up the first newspaper article, and it was about, it was the base newspaper, and it was talking about Master Sergeant or Staff Sergeant Gil Olerud has purchased this business, you know.
Yeah.
So I hope to, when I retire, go through all the newspaper articles.
Yeah.
We'll pull up JC stuff and JSAT stuff too.
That would be good.
Be fun to do too while I have access to it.
We had Mason Tucker, who was a big supporter of us.
Yes, he was.
And he put everything in his newspaper.
Yes, he
Do you
did.
remember when they had the entrance to the base right here in front of your daddy's store?
Yeah, well, it was a little bit down. We were
Was it?
talking about Jefferson Pike. This was Sam Davis Road, came
Yeah.
around, little 2-lane road. So in 1982, that's when it was expanded to 5 lanes and became Nissan Drive. But Jefferson Pike ran right. You had to go through a guard shack and then come out on the other end,
yeah.
Murfreesboro Road, right?
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
So it was, and the base there was a lot to the base, and when the base closed, everybody was, oh no,
Oh no, yeah.
oh no, what's gonna happen to us?
Gloom and doom.
Yeah, and that's probably like 2 years later, my dad built the shopping center
Yeah.
here. Everybody said, that Gil Olerud's crazy.
Well, he was a pretty awesome guy because I knew him long before I ever knew you.
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
And
Y'all were good friends.
we were great friends, and one of the things that brought us closer together, we were both Republicans.
Yep.
And there wasn't that many Republicans
No,
in
there
Smyrna at the time, you know. I mean,
There wasn't.
we were few and far between, and we had to watch where we went and
Yeah.
who we were talking in front of.
Yeah, stick together.
Yep, we did. And I don't know if you remember when they tore the bridge down over here on Stewart's Creek.
You know, I was finishing up school at MTSU and living in Murfreesboro, but that was quite an impact on the business. And didn't you live over that way too?
I built the very first house on Brookhaven Trail.
Oh wow! Yeah.
H.G. Cole lives in it now.
Oh really?
Yeah.
It's a beautiful house. I love the outside of it. It's a yeah. That was a hardship not having a bridge.
Oh, it was awful.
Yeah.
Marlene, my wife at the time, was a teacher over here, and she used to could just go straight down Nina Springs Road to the school. Now she's having to go all the way around to the guard shack, but it was really convenient because we would shop at your dad's grocery store.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
And he and I would get together, and you know, we didn't have mobile phones back then, but she would call the store and say, if Marty's still there, would you send him home? Oh yeah.
Not that you both like to talk or visit with each other.
We
right?
did. We talked a lot, and we created a bond. You know, that he was easy to talk to. I mean, he was just a super nice guy.
He's a people guy, just like you.
Yeah, he's a very much of a people guy. But yeah, it wasn't that many Republicans. It was you and me and Trish Nash and Mason Tucker and
Mr.
Dr.
Dr. Frank.
Yeah, Marsh Frank.
Yeah.
And we'd go to the conventions in Nashville because they didn't have conventions in Rutherford County.
No.
So we'd all ride together up there. I remember Marsh Frank one time, we was going down the interstate, and he had his cruise control. We was all riding with him. He said his cruise control was about 55 on the interstate. Well, cars were passing us, blowing horns at us, and somebody in the car said, Dr. Frank, why are you going so slow? Well, I'm trying to save on gas. Yeah, that was a hoot. That was. We were fixing to get run over because he was saving a little bit on gas. But boy, those were good times. You know, back in the day. I loved old Smyrna. You know, I really did.
Yeah, there's some good people.
There used to be a Dairy Pride up there at Eden Springs Road and Murfreesboro Road. I think it was a Dairy Pride.
Yeah. And that were the trading posts?
It is now, yeah.
Yeah. We lost
Yeah, that was good times, boy. Did you know that Nina Springs Road from that point up to Old Nashville Highway used to be called Sam Davis Highway?
No.
They changed the name because it would come down to, what was it, Hazelwood, the Front Street?
Yeah.
And then there was another crossing over the tracks And that's, you know where Sam Davis Road is now, right in the middle of Smyrna?
Yeah.
Well, there was a crossing right there,
Oh, okay. Okay.
and it connected to Sam Davis Highway. They went up to Old Nashville Highway, which was originally called the Dixie Highway. But let's talk about your daddy and the fact that he was the first Santa Claus in Smyrna.
Yeah, he loved to dress up.
Boy, he did. He was a great Santa Claus, because we got him here for the the first or second Christmas parade. I can't remember.
It's the first one.
Is it the first one?
Yeah.
Is that the one where they were talking to everybody? Him and Lee Victory were talking to everybody. Got separated from the parade by the train.
And then the train came through, so it stopped the parade.
It stopped the parade.
They were on the other side.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep, we had to wait on them.
There's a different route now, though, for the parade.
Yeah, there is, which is probably smart move on that part. Yeah.
Crossing the train tracks.
But he really enjoyed being the Santa Claus in Smyrna.
So he would dress up as Santa Claus at the grocery store.
Yeah.
And he enjoyed doing that. And Mrs. Elsie Jones, and then she later was Mrs. Russell, made a homemade suit for him out of real velvet and real rabbit fur.
Wow.
I mean, that's how much he liked being Santa Claus. And he every year would buy a new wig and a new beard. And I remember my mom would curl up his wig to make it look nice, and a big leather belt, and big leather boots. Yeah, it was really neat. And I know you probably can't see this, but on this collage, there's a picture of my dad with me and my sister Candy and my brother Gilbert. And then he's up here with my daughter Heather Lee. And then he was in the Christmas parade, I don't know how many years.
Yeah.
Yeah, but he was honored that you asked him. He was so excited about it. Yeah.
Well, I think it was your idea.
Really? It might have been. Cause
Yeah, you said, why don't you ask Dad if he wants to be Santa Claus?
Because he had that beautiful and he loved playing Santa Claus.
Yeah. So I'm pretty sure that said, get Dad to do that.
Yeah, I knew he'd like it.
Now, when he built this shopping center right here, it was the only shopping center in Smyrna.
Yeah, and actually when he first built it, we were outside the town limits. So,
Yes, you were.
So then this building this year is 50 years old, and it's got a sprinkler system in it, which is kind of unheard of. But my dad was real progressive, and Mike Sparks always talks about how your dad was a real visionary, you know.
He was.
Like, there's so many other people, you know, in Smyrna that are visionaries, but he wanted to, and my husband's, David Williams, is always amazed at how well built this building was and planned and everything.
And what year did he build it?
He built it in 72, and then in 73 we moved from the kitty corner over to here, moved the grocery store.
Okay.
So it doubled. The grocery store was an 18,000 square foot grocery store, and we could advertise the largest grocery store in North Rutherford County.
That's right, you could.
The big guys came into town, the Krogers and the Winn-Dixie.
Publix and now, Winn-Dixie's not here in Smyrna anymore, is it?
No, I think they're more down south.
I know there's one in Laverne, or there used to be one in Laverne.
Yeah, that's a Save-A-Lot now. There's not too many independents that have big grocery stores, because, you know, the mom and pop can't compete with the big guys.
No, they can't. No.
You know.
Now, when your father built this building right here, did he know there was a horse race track right behind the building?
I don't think he did, but that's a really interesting story, and you know a lot about that, don't you?
Well, at one time in the 1800s, do you remember where the golf clubhouse used to be over there next to Witt's?
Yes, yeah.
Well, excuse me. So, where the golf was the Goochland plantation.
Yes, yeah.
Well, they had a horse race track.
Wow.
So, in the area of Murfreesboro and Smyrna and Walter Hill and Las Casas, we had about 7 horse race tracks.
Wow.
Now, so was there a lot of gambling?
Oh, heavens no. Gambling was illegal, you know that.
Right.
There wasn't any gambling at the Bicentennial horse race either.
Oh, really?
Oh, no, heavens no.
No. So there must have been a lot of fast horses in the area. You think about, Shelbyville being the walking horse, capital. But of course, you're a horseman, and you know all about horses. And
Greg Tucker, the Rutherford County historian.
Yeah.
He and I were working on something. He, of course, he's more advanced than I am, but we think that Frank and Jesse James, using our aliases, would come to Smyrna and horse race.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, we're pretty certain they raced on the track behind your store.
So they call this Esprit, right?
Uh-huh.
Esprit. And if you go to Sharp Springs Natural Park area, there is a lot of signage if you do that walking trail, and
Right.
it talks about the history. And I got to commend Smyrna Parks and Recreation for getting the history out there, because, that's something a lot of people, we have so many new residents in Smyrna. And such interesting stories, and when you share a story on your Facebook page, it's really always interesting.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's great.
Well, writing and reading right now is really helping me keep my sanity with the situation I got, because I can't stand just laying there thinking about my thoughts,
Yeah.
I get so negative sometimes. So writing, I love writing about Smyrna, the history of Smyrna. And across the road from where Witz is, there's a slave graveyard.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, one white man he's the only one that's got a headstone, but there's 80 graves
Wow.
across the street from Witz.
Does the trail come near there?
No, the trail doesn't go near there.
There is a plaque up that talks about Goochland,
Yes.
and there is a little cemetery over there.
Yeah, they were one of the largest plantations in Tennessee. But yeah, it's interesting. The one white guy that's buried with them, he has a headstone, but none of the others have headstones. They used to make them out of wood, and they'd take a plank like they'd use for firewood, and carve it down.
Yeah, and they
But,
just disintegrated it.
Yeah, they didn't last very long.
Wow, that'd be a good project for somebody, wouldn't it? To do research and reinstall some, headstones.
Yeah. And then, of course, we had Stewart's Creek. And a lot of people thought about the base name was called Stewart's.
Yeah.
But it wasn't. It wasn't named after some general up north or something.
Had died in a plane crash.
Yeah.
Stewart, yeah.
Yeah. So
that's how my mom and dad got here from North Dakota. So my dad was a World War II veteran and a Korean War veteran, and he switched from the Army to the Air Force. And there was another air base in New York State that was kind of similar to Seward also, and they thought they were going to be stationed there, and then realized no, that was Stewart, and then this is Seward in Smyrna, Tennessee. Yeah. So when they moved here, they brought their mobile home with them because they heard that there wasn't any housing, and they just finished base housing. And they used to call this area Trailer Town.
They did.
Yeah, Trailer Town.
And I still hear elderly people, a little older than you and I, refer to it as Trailer Town.
Okay.
I've heard that several times.
And the phone number started with TR, trailer.
And all the license plates, they all started with 11.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Because we were the 11th largest county in Tennessee.
Wow. Number 4 now?
Yes, I think so.
And closing in on number 3. I've heard that.
Yeah.
Closing in on number 3, which is Chattanooga area. So the military hospital wasn't finished here. So I was born at Fort Campbell on an army base, of course, and came back here. And, it was kind of like, well, when the base was first formed, it was the Smyrna Training Camp or something they called it, and then it transitioned into an airport, I believe.
Well, we have the longest runway for the large planes.
Yeah,
They all come here and use that runway to land.
Yeah, a lot of amenities,
And we had
we got a great air show coming up in June.
You got one now?
An air show.
Oh, yeah.
Show coming up in June.
Yeah, but
It's the first-
you know how long that those guys, the Blue Angels, have been in existence? They started in 1947.
Wow.
It was about a half a dozen pilots after the war. They said, guys, we got to keep flying. And so the jets that were used in the war, they were selling like $300 to $500 a piece. And so a lot of the old pilots that fought, they bought planes, and they started doing an air show, demonstrating stuff, playing, and it just grew to where it's called the Blue Angels today.
Oh, wow. I didn't know they'd been around that long.
Yeah, well, it surprised me too when I was looking them up one day, going to write something about them.
Yeah.
And I thought, wow, man, that's unreal. That they've been here that long.
Yeah.
Well, we were talking about Jefferson Pike right here, and that was a major thoroughfare to Walter Hill, but it was also a major thoroughfare to Old Jefferson. And they tore down Old Jefferson and just bulldozed all the houses out there. But as I recollect, there was a bridge right past your store over here that went in the backside of Old Jefferson, and they bulldozed that down. Do you have any recollection of that?
Yeah, and it seemed like it was an old rickety bridge. And I remember I would spend the night with a friend, Brenda Elliott. Well, she's Brenda Elliott now, she's Brenda Parker then. And we go across that bridge, and it scared me going across that bridge. I was a little kid too, but it was an old bridge, an old metal bridge.
All the bridges in this area were old and rickety. Now, if you remember correctly, the one going across Church Creek, it had a wood floor in it.
Oh gosh, yeah, that's kind of.
And you go across that thing, and you'd hear clunk, 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 clunk.
Is this going to cave in on me?
Yes, that's exactly right.
Yeah.
But I remember the bridge was a useful tool for people who wanted to float and fish Church Creek, because they would go to that bridge, which was really low at the time. And they would go to the bridge, and they'd drop their john boats off the side.
Flat bottom.
Flat bottoms.
Uh-huh.
And they would get them, and they'd float all the way down to, what is it, Jefferson, over where the school is? So, but they would float to that.
Yeah.
But I got to tell you a great story. This is one of my favorite stories, and sadly, all the participants are, have already passed on. But my yard used to back up to Knox River.
Oh, okay.
On the creek.
Yeah.
And then right down from him was the chief of police here in Smyrna. Well, I had like a 10-foot john boat behind my house. But Knox had, a big one. I mean, he had like an 18-footer, right? And then the chief of police, he had one that was about the same size as Knox. So they came through my yard, got in my boat, floated across the creek, tied my boat up, stole Knox's, got the chief's boat, and went down the creek with it. Knox was down there raising cane. Boy, he was throwing a fit. And you know how that little man could, get all excited?
Yeah.
And so when he calmed down a little bit, I said, Knox, if you would, just send my boat back over. That just infuriated him too,
That's funny.
Now, did you ever have any association with the Ridleys as far as working with them or politics or anything like that?
Well, in 1972, I'm going to go back a ways, but I know where you're going with this. In 1973, when we had the grand opening and we had a ribbon cutting in that lobby right there, Mayor Sam was there for the ribbon cutting. And I've got a picture in my office, and this picture here shows it. You might not be able to see it with the reflection. And but anyway, in 1989, I decided I wanted to get into politics, so I ran for a public office here. Actually, if the year before I ran for the school board, but I lost. But that might have been a blessing in disguise there. I admire anybody that tosses their hat into the ring, and you've run. It takes an effort to, go out and meet the public and everything. But I ran, and so I was the first woman elected to the commission.
That's right. That's
Yeah.
what I was. That's where I was going.
That's where you were going, yeah. So
Yeah,
I was,
and you did an awesome job. And I think after you got out of it, didn't Jerry
I want to say.
Archer?
Well, no, I think H.G. Coe ran after me.
Okay.
Yeah, and H.G. Coe's been in there longest. And at that time, you ran for certain areas. Like we had a commissioner of fire and police, a
Right.
commissioner of finances, commissioner of utilities,
Well, you mentioned
public
the fact
safety.
that I ran.
Yeah.
Well, I didn't run because I wanted the office, right? I had just started up my business, my state farm agency here in Smyrna. And somebody told me the best publicity you're going to get, the cheapest publicity, is to run for office.
That's true.
And I think it was an attorney that told me that all attorneys run for office,
Oh, wow.
and that's how they get their name out
Get
there
their
for
name
free.
out there. You know, a lot of people will run the first time to get their name out there, and the second time they've met so many people the first time around that they'll get elected the second
Well,
time.
I got
So
scared.
don't give up.
No, I got panicky right there at
I
close to
remember
the
when
thing.
you ran, yeah.
And I thought, I don't want to win.
Oh,
This is, you know, I mean, I told a lot of people, don't vote for me because
No,
I
don't
don't
vote
want
for
to
me.
win.
I don't want to win.
And it was really scary because I was running against Paul. We divided the church up on that, but
Oh, yeah.
I really didn't want to hold office in Smyrna.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
and it
I enjoy doing it. You meet a lot of people. You know, the opportunity to make improvements in your community, which we'd already done that through JCs and JSETs,
That's right.
you know, and now we have Rotary, and there's still the Lions Club that do lots of good work too in the community. We're blessed with people that really care about their community.
they want to be involved.
They want to be involved. They want to make it a better place to live, the best place to live.
Yeah, the
we're
Lions Club
blessed.
and the Rotary. I've never met so many people that were just like you said. They want to be involved. They want to make things happen. They want to create stuff. Mm-hmm. And you look at the Lions Club and they do Christmas shopping. You look at Rotary, and we raise money in Rotary to build a park over here.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Park turned
we've
out
got
great.
a lot of wonderful people with a lot of talent. And it seems like you and I have been involved in just about everything that's been going on in Smyrna for a lot of years, you know?
Mhm. Yeah, people every once in a while will come up and say something about my dad. Now, my dad passed away suddenly in 1980, massive heart attack, totally unexpected. And to die in 1980 and people like we are right now talking about him, he really left impression on people. People say, oh, I remember when your dad used to do the food baskets. And
Yeah.
he supported the Sam Davis Home, and I still support the Sam Davis Home. I donate whatever they need for maintenance, you know, things. And things, you know, just to improve the community. And, you know, we love where we live. So,
That's the thing about Smyrna. You move here and you're going to love it.
yeah.
You really will. Now, back in the day, I don't remember you ever going there, but there was a place called Sissy's. You remember Sissy's
I remember
restaurant?
Sissy's restaurant.
See, we used to congregate down at the Davy Crockett restaurant. Do you remember that?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, and then of course Nissan came in and said, well, we're going to, you know, take it down. So we moved to Sissy's restaurant.
Yeah.
There was 3 different groups of people in Sissy's restaurant. Each one had their own table. You had Pusher Hal and his group. You had Carl Montgomery and his group. And then you had me and whoever else I was sitting with, I think Rick Farrell, Dick Johnson. We would sit over here. And there was always a huge argument in Sissy's restaurant for breakfast.
No shootings, though.
And what now?
Nobody shot anybody.
No, that happened just right down the street.
Yeah.
Yeah. Did you ever go with me into that place?
No, but I did with David one time. I
Did
said,
you?
I want to go in there, but I was scared to go by myself, so
Yeah.
I made him go with me.
Yeah, I took Trish Nash and someone else in there one night, and I said, going over there and get us a booth. Well, I hear Trish scream. Oh, what's going on? You know, what happened? And she sat down on somebody's head that was laying in the booth.
Oh, no.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, and you know, the Smyrna Rescue Squad was next door. It's the Assembly Hall now.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Right.
were you ever associated with the Rescue Squad?
No, but if they, we donated things to them
Right.
and supported them. Yeah, they were a great group of people.
Well, yeah, they were. I mean, they did a lot of benevolent stuff and a lot of volunteers. And that's, we was talking about Smyrna a while ago. If you move here, you're going to love it and you're going to get involved.
Yeah.
And that's what a lot of people did. We didn't, at the time, we didn't have an ambulance service in Smyrna. Dr. Pinto was the only doctor, I think, at the time, and he didn't work at night.
No hospital, no emergency center. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
We didn't have
One
any
doctor.
of that stuff.
We had good old clinic, but.
Well, yeah. That's true, we did, didn't we?
Yeah.
I think Rick Warren changed that into apartment complex now.
Yeah, or his maintenance businesses.
Is that what it is?
Yeah, fire restoration.
Yeah, good old clinic was something unusual, wasn't it?
Yeah.
If you needed to go get treatment, I guess that would be the place to go at night. But the Smyrna Rescue Squad decided that we need to buy an ambulance to take people to Murfreesboro. And
To the county hospital.
to the county hospital. And then they decided that we needed some drivers for the ambulance. And then they decided that we needed to have some EMTs. And Red York and W. Carter. You remember them?
Oh, yeah.
Well, they came to me and said, you're going to go to school starting next week. Well, I didn't have any idea what they're talking about. And we signed you up to go to school to get licensed in EMT.
Oh, no. I didn't know
Well,
that.
I went and I got licensed, but you talk about a horrific experience. I mean, that was, to be so young and be exposed to that kind of stuff, that was not good. But that's one thing about Smyrna, you get volunteers whether they want to or not,
Voluntoed.
Yeah,
You were voluntoed.
that's just what I was voluntoed.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, what else you want to touch on here while we're talking?
Well, in March we will have been in business 70 years, our family.
Yeah.
I want to have a party. It might be a retirement party.
It very well could be from what I hear. That's the rumor.
That's the rumor.
Yep, that's.
I haven't seen a check and we haven't signed any legal papers, but we're discussing it. And in fact, I just met this morning with one of the guys that's going to do. He's part of the transition team. He said so.
Well, the rumor is it's a done deal.
Yeah, well, pretty much.
Yeah, that's the
pretty
rumor.
much. Yeah.
That's one thing about Smyrna too. We do have rumors.
Yeah.
We have a
News
lot.
travels fast.
Well, it does.
Doesn't it?
I mean, there's no secrets in this.
Especially through this camera here. When it gets on Facebook.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's it's going to be an Ace Hardware, and it's a family business. They've been in business 101 years.
Wow.
They're actually older than Ace Corporate, and they have like 27 stores, over 500 employees. The store's going to be a little bigger. We're going to still maintain ownership of the shopping center, the building, yeah. And
that was the rumor I heard too.
yeah, oh yeah, that weed soda, yeah. We're going to hang on to that for a little bit, till we get this Jefferson Pike done at least.
Yeah.
But we are really blessed to be where we're at. Like everybody in life, you have your ups and your downs, and
Oh yeah.
you know about that, and your business is like that too. And I kiddingly said, you just have to ride the wave, you know. When it's up, you're up, and when it's down, you're down, and you just try to maintain.
Right.
And so we, you know, when my dad died suddenly in 1980, it was just totally unexpected. And we got through that. We did sell the grocery store to somebody, and we also sold the Radio Shack. We had the Radio Shack. My dad was, you know, in a restaurant building.
Yeah.
I remember my mom being in an apron washing dishes, you know. And I thought, why isn't she at home washing dishes? But we're at this restaurant, you know. Now it's Chappie's Bar and Grill. And then, you know, Daddy had a service station and converted it into a convenience market because service stations were going away.
Now that's still going strong, right?
Oh, yes, yeah. Yeah, we own the building and there's a new owner. My sister got to retire, Kennedy.
Yeah.
She retired
That was I heard. I was going to ask you about that.
Yeah, about 2 years ago she retired. And then, you know, about 3 years ago, the front of the building fell off.
Yeah.
And people were calling me and asking me if we needed help. They wanted to help us, you know. And I said, no, but thank you for thinking of us, you know. And my brother Gilbert got out there, and that was his project, his and Annette's project, and it turned out beautiful. I said, God always takes good care of us. We had, you know, good insurance, commercial insurance, and I mean, you know, sometimes people don't have insurance. That's crazy, isn't it, not to have insurance?
They don't.
But people don't, and but we had insurance. So the building, to be 50 years old, is in the best shape it's ever been. New AC units, new roof. In my store, I got new ceiling tiles and LED lighting, and it looks nice and bright in there. And we have new signage on the building too. But it turned out really good. And you know, I just was going with the flow. When it happened, I was kind of shocked, you know, and I thought, oh, it was the worst weather day, so nobody was in the store, just me and 2 employees. I had 2 employees that the weather's so bad they live far away, so I don't make people come in to work. I wouldn't want that on my conscience if something happened to them, you know. I said, no, if you don't want to drive in this and you don't, then don't drive in it. And anybody with that frame of mind, if you're scared to drive in it, don't drive in it. Stay home, stay put.
You stay home, yeah.
Stay put. And but anyway, thankfully nobody got hurt, and we didn't have any customers in the store. And there was hardly anybody out. It was really, really bad. And I know a lot of homeowners had collapsed patio covers and collapsed carports and roof leaking because their gutters got full of ice. And yeah, it was...
The water backed up under the shingles. It raised the shingles and the water would come through the roof.
Oh, I can't imagine. It's like you had a waterfall in your house.
Yeah.
That would be crazy.
Yeah, there was a lot of those. There really was. But it just showed too that, you know, we went through a building spurt in Smyrna. You know, where a lot of houses were going up really, really quick.
Oh, yeah.
And then when we had that storm, a lot of people realized that some of the work that was done on the house was not up to par.
Up to par, yeah.
And so insurance, of course, will pay, but if it has to bring it up to codes, insurance will pay the difference to bring it up to codes.
Wow.
So that saved a lot of people, even though the storm was horrific. I mean, it was really bad.
Yeah.
A lot of people benefited from it.
Yeah. So they could make improvements to their home then.
Well, let's talk about when the road here in front of your building was 1.5 lanes.
Okay. Yeah, 1982, and you know, Daddy died right. There was rumors of the Nissan plant coming.
Right.
Just rumors. So actually, when my dad died, he didn't know if it was coming or not. And I often wonder what would Daddy had done differently, you know, because he was pretty progressive, you know.
Right.
And you know, just guessing what, you know, he might have done, or you know, if things are different. But I think he'd be proud the way everything looks now, because it's the
Very
best
proud.
the building's ever looked, and our other properties. But you know, that rumor that Nissan was coming, and then the road building was something to go through. I remember I'd go out every day and I'd say, hey, you need to move this equipment because I got grocery customers that need to come in here, you know.
Yeah.
And actually, this Jefferson Pike expansion, we haven't had that much interruption in the traffic. But you know, I mean, like it's human nature, you're going to avoid a construction site, you know, and I hope people aren't avoiding doing business. We're steady, you know, this month's been a little slow, but it's January, it's always slow after Christmas. And
Right.
maybe people are spending money on food and gas, I don't know, you know.
They very well could
Get
be.
mighty hardware, but anyway, but you got to fix it, maintain, and keep things, you know, repaired. But yeah, that was quite just a hard time. Smyrna then. I remember thinking I wasn't happy living in Smyrna then because things were changing, and I remember saying to I said, wow, it's like they're digging a hole everywhere, and there's dirt and dust and people. All these people came into Smyrna, and I was in the grocery business then. I actually had people come in the store asking for food, and I said, "Well, I can't give you food. I'm here to. I'm selling, groceries." I said, "Well, why don't you go to Murfreesboro? They got a food bank there." And then they looked at me and they said, If I ain't got money for food, what makes you think I got money for gas to go to Murfreesboro?" And I said, "Oh, good point." And there was this couple, Patsy and Hiram Wright, and I love telling this story because this is one of the neatest things I've ever done, and it started something. He was connected with the air base, and they lived at Wary Housing Cooperative. Action Community.
Right.
Yeah, and it's a housing cooperative. It's a very unique concept, and they wanted to start a food bank, and they came in the store, and I said, "Oh yeah, I'll help you with that. Yes, people are coming in here asking for food," and they said, "Well, we want you to be the chairman." I said, "Oh, okay, yeah, I'll do that." I mean, I saw the need, I said, "But here's the deal. We're not buying groceries from me, because that's a conflict of interest. We'll go down to Save-A-Lot, which was on this side of Murfreesboro."
Right.
And we'd go down there, and then eventually we hooked up with Second Harvest Food Bank and bought food from them, which they still exist. And Carolyn Peebles, she was part of the board. And there's some other people, and they were all from Wary Housing, so they started a food bank over there, and now it's evolved into the Nourish Food Bank, and they took over the Rutherford County Food Bank, and under the leadership of LaDonna Parham, she's the executive director, and last year they celebrated 40 years.
She's done an awesome job, She
Listen,
really has.
the people, to go through COVID and the hard times,
I
couldn't quote you how many people, but, we just started that one, here in Smyrna, and then it became Nourish Food Bank, and then Nourish Food Bank. And Joe Calls, the person in Murfreesboro that was in charge of their food bank, and she was connected with St. Rose Catholic Church.
Right.
And they named a room there after the Joe Call room. She was an awesome volunteer too.
You brought up St. Rose Church. Do you remember when that was a horse barn?
No.
When
Oh
they
no,
cut-
St. Luke, my church.
Yeah.
Yes, it was a horse barn.
Yes, it was.
Yes, I remember. I wasn't even Catholic then, but I was going to Catholic church because, hey, the family that prays together stays together.
That's
So,
right.
Anyway, I'm Catholic now, but yeah, I remember the bishop coming. It had that metal roof, and it was raining, and the bishop was so funny. It was the first service there, and he said, "Well, we're starting out just like Jesus Christ did at a stable." It was really neat, and then you could hear the rain on the metal roof. And now, look what we have now. We just built and we've paid for it, a $1.3 million building.
Oh boy, that's
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah, it's a beautiful church.
I used to work in that place when it was a barn.
Really?
I fed
Yeah.
horses. I put hay up.
Oh, wow.
I
That's
kept
hard
horses.
work.
Oh, it was awful, but at the time I loved it,
Oh, yeah. Well, you loved horses.
Yeah.
And wasn't there a barn next door, too? A stable next door?
It did. Mr. Carter on the one that you're in now, he's deceased, you know. And then Tom Urey owned the one next door to it.
Oh, yeah.
And they had the same guy build both barns.
But they look identical,
And
yeah.
they were identical, yeah.
We have purchased that property now, and we're using that for storage. And then we've purchased another house, and they would like to purchase more land.
Yeah.
They would, and maybe eventually have a school, you know. They're
That would be
thinking
good.
way ahead.
Well, we've got some really good schools here, public and private, you know.
Oh, yes, yeah. A lot of churches. A lot of good churches, yeah. But, yeah,
Yeah.
what's our population? About 54,000 now?
Yeah, it's on up there. Do you remember when it was like 20 at the most?
Yeah.
And, you know, we were counting people that was right on the outskirts.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah,
as
the
residents.
more people you have, you get some federal funding.
That's exactly what I was told.
Yeah. I
I
learned that
asked Sam one time, because he and Knox and I, you know, we were off and on. You know, one day they liked me, one day they didn't like me.
too. Yeah.
So, but when they did like me, you know, was talking about how Smyrna was growing. Because Lake Farm, right down here, it used to be inside the city limits. When Pusher Howe was building all those houses out there, it was part of the city limits. And I think there was two reasons why they moved it outside the city limits, and both of them were vindictive measures. Sadly, that's what I think. It's a personal opinion, okay?
Yeah.
But that whole subdivision over there was inside the city limits. And Pusher Howe and Amon Williamson built that subdivision.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Amen.
And so Pusher and Sam got into a big, huge argument, right? So they parted company, and to hurt, like I said, this is just my personal observation. But when we had the election, Sam's cousin, I can't think of his name, Whitney maybe, but he was running for
Whitney
judge.
Stiegel?
Thank you.
He was a judge.
He was a judge.
Yeah.
And so I helped his opponent, Steve Daniels,
Oh, yeah.
and that subdivision, we went door to door. Steve and I went door to door, because I had a lot of people insured in that subdivision. I mean, the majority of them, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
So Steve and I went door to door to door in that subdivision, and that subdivision, the whole subdivision, carried him. It helped him down here. And that's one of the reasons he was able to beat Whitney, which Whitney was a cousin to Sam and Knox.
Oh, okay.
And that didn't sit well.
Mm-mm.
Well, the next thing I know, that subdivision has been moved outside the city limits, took away all the fire protection, all the police protection.
Made their insurance rates go up.
Yeah, made the insurance rates go sky high, which of course affected my business.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
It was fun times back then. The games people played.
Yeah.
Well, I guess that's about all I can think of to discuss. You got anything you want to talk about?
Just looking for the future.
Well, you know, we are the future. We're old now.
Yeah.
We saw it back when we looked at other people as the future, and now we are considered the future.
Yeah.
You know, we are part of what made Smyrna grow.
What about the trailer park across the road? Was that part of y'all's family?
No.
What?
So we were talking about this being trailer town, and when somebody is in, military, sometimes it's easier just to move your home with you.
Yeah.
So the mobile home parks were very popular, and so we had this one here that was the Joneses.
Yeah.
Then we had one where Charleston Hall was apartments. There was one there.
Wasn't that the Vester Waldron's?
It might have been, yeah. And then we still have one here, Priest Lake, and we had a small one behind the old grocery store. We had about 8 spots there, and so they called it Trailer Town. So when the road was being developed, then we lost that trailer park, and then Charleston Hall Apartments came in, so we lost that trailer park, and a lot of those were grocery customers, and I felt bad because someone said, I don't know where I'm gonna go because not every place allows a trailer park.
No, they did not.
It's like
And
having a
you
dump
couldn't
or a
get
convenience center or whatever. Yeah,
it
Yeah.
was.
yeah.
And a lot of places that they moved their trailer to, they couldn't get insurance on them.
Oh wow, yeah. So
I
that
remember that
was
really
kind of
well.
a hardship, but this one here has been here for a long time, and there seems to be well run and everything, and
Ernie Johns told me that right past the trailer park said that it was called Tick Town or Tick. Do you remember what that was, Herb? Tick something.
We can go, I'll go watch that other video and find out what it was.
But I thought that was so interesting that Ernie, we went to talk to him when he was in the nursing home up there. Boy, that guy was a wealth of information. I wish, we could put
Yes.
his brain in
Greg Bowers passed away.
Oh, that
and
hurt.
I
Oh,
saw Edna at the grocery store at Food Line. She works there, and told her how sorry, and he just had so much history, but thanks to her Batson, he's recording history now as we're
Yeah.
reminiscing and talking about history, but thanks to her for preserving history.
Well, Greg and I
Pass
used to work
on.
together a lot on historical stuff. We had a big discussion in Smyrna, on the Smyrna historical site, where was the road that went under the railroad tracks? You remember that one? It was like one lane.
Wasn't that Chicken Pike, or was that not Chicken Pike?
I think it was further past Chicken Pike. Speaking of Chicken Pike, nobody knows how it got its name. Do you?
That's where the bridge was at, Chicken Pike. Mike and them used to talk about running to see who was going to make it first
Oh yeah.
when they were growing up.
I was always scared because only one car could go through
Yeah.
there, and you'd want to honk your horn because why is there a little curve there? So you can't really see what's coming. You were talking about Greg Tucker. So Greg Tucker has 4 books that we have at the hardware store, and they'll keep these local history books. But our story's on page 126.
I've got all of his books.
Yeah, they're great. They're great.
I've read all of them probably 2 or 3 times.
And
What's on page 26?
so 126
Oh.
is talking about the gambling collateral became Smyrna landmark. And so Mr. Gamble, Buddy Gamble's, Vincent Gamble, Buddy Gamble's grandpa, won the store, little country store, in a poker game. So Greg wanted to write that story, and he asked me about it. And Greg, being a Washington, D.C. lawyer,
Right?
and knows how to look up papers and legal documents, and and so he questioned me, and I said, well, all I can tell you is that's what I've always heard. And I asked Buddy Gamble, the grandson, he said my grandpa would bet on anything. And it'd be interesting to interview Buddy.
It would be.
Yeah,
It'd
he'd
be
be a-
interesting to go over to the sawmill and just sit there and talk to those guys.
Yeah.
Actually, if you went over there, you wouldn't go over there to talk. You went
Yeah.
over there to listen.
Oh, no. Now, Buddy is on the other side of Murfreesboro. You're thinking of the Gambles. I don't know how they're related.
Well, they're cousins.
Okay, you
yeah.
think they're cousins? Yeah. Oh, yeah. I'm just talking to Gamble Sawmill,
Yeah,
which I understand they're starting to sell some property out there.
yeah,
They're kind of happy right now.
yeah, they are.
But there's some great stories in here. And then this young lady wrote a story, Christina Runkle, and she was working at the Sam Davis home. I think she was in charge of the collections. She wrote this little story on Smyrna, and it's real interesting. She hits, the reason Smyrna's here is because of the train. We were a water stop. Am I right on that?
We were a water stop, and you know the difference between a water stop and what was a jerkwater town?
Jerk
We were
water.
a water stop.
Okay.
Do you remember the pond that was right there in front of the depot? It was dug to collect water, and then they would pump it using hydraulic pumps or using hand pumps.
Because the train was a steam train.
Yes, it was.
And they needed water.
Yes,
And then they burnt coal to heat up the water,
right.
to turn it into steam to power the locomotive.
That's correct.
Got
yeah.
it. Okay, just making
But
sure.
a jerkwater town is where the residents of the town would line up and they would jerk up buckets and hand them up,
Oh
and
my
they would
gosh.
pour them into the train. And that's why they call them jerkwater towns.
Oh, I'd never heard of that. Yeah.
But
They're a little behind, weren't they?
uh,
Not as progressive. We keep using that word progressive. But this book is really good. It's it talks about, the train and where Smyrna got its name. Smyrna Presbyterian Church.
right.
Yeah.
A lot of people think that the church was named after Smyrna, but it's not. Smyrna was named after the church.
Oh, okay. Okay, that's the connection. And if you're talking, like I talk to vendors, they're from all over the place, and they can't say Smyrna. They can't spell Smyrna. What kind of name is that? I said, don't you read the Bible? It's in the Bible right next to Antioch. And we're almost
And
next to
Memphis.
Antioch. And Memphis, yeah.
Yeah.
But there's some great pictures of the railroad, talks about Nissan, the Sam Davis home, talks about cotton industry here. I remember in the grocery store, there'd be these farmers come in, their overalls, and they'd be sitting there waiting on the wives to grocery shop. And I got to talking to one of them, I think it was Mr. Buchanan, that lived on Sharp Springs. And he said that, well, I remember when there was 4 cotton gins in Smyrna running 24/7. I said, really, there was that much cotton grown around here? And they said, yeah. So for us to switch from agriculture to highly industrial now,
Yeah.
I mean, we're very much, we have a Nissan plant with 8,000 employees, but it covers Nissan in here. It's a real interesting little book. And we've got some family pictures in there, and Bud Rakes has some family pictures in there, but it's a neat little book if you want to learn about Smyrna. And it's not real expensive. $21.99. Available at Gil's Ace Hardware.
We're talking about the depot and the train and everything. If you see the old pictures of the depot, you'll see cattle pens down both sides of the track.
Oh, wow.
And so it was a great place.
So a lot of cattle.
Yeah,
And we used to have a lot of dairy farms here too.
we did.
I remember the Joneses had a hog farm. Whew. Stinky. Very stinky. But they had a hog farm, and I always,
Well, we had a lot of
Steve
moonshine.
Johns. That's his name, Steve?
yeah.
Okay, that was his name.
Excuse me.
It's funny, this has the train wreck in it that we had, and yeah.
Well, the depot, we had a sheriff that rode a white horse and carried a .44 Magnum pistol. And he was here to protect the people getting off and going to get something to eat off Front Street or whatever. The people who developed the railroad, they bought like 7,000 acres on the other side of the depot. That's the reason a lot of people went over here. I am sorry, excuse me. And built where the Presbyterian Church is, because they couldn't afford the lots over here.
Oh, okay.
The railroad had them jacked up a little bit, trying to, recover some of their investment. But we had a lot of moonshiners that was out on Rock Springs Road. And there was a time when Al Capone came through here, and they would pick up a lot of moonshine. Well, the sheriff, he found out where one of the moonshiners lived and was working, so he rode his horse out Rock Springs Road, and he arrested the guy, and he had all of his moonshine equipment brought into Smyrna to use as evidence. Well, the guy broke out of the jail, which was behind the assembly hall at the time. So he broke out of the jail, or he was let out, one of the two, and he took all the equipment that they had confiscated, And you remember where Brickell Furniture used to be? Well, I don't know what kind of business it was back then, but I do know there was a Greyhound bus station and a restaurant in it.
Yeah.
Well, he took all his moonshine equipment and put it on top of that building to hide it. So when they took him to court, they didn't have any evidence against him.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
So they dismissed all the charges. Well, he came back a few days later, got on the building, got all his equipment, took it back out Rock Springs Road. So the sheriff heard about that. He went back out there to get. But they did. They shot the sheriff. You know where the Rock Springs Church is out there in the curve?
Yeah.
Well, that was one of the places that had access to the creek and stuff, you know, where they could make their shine.
Yeah.
Well, anyhow, they propped him up against a tree out there. And then when they went looking for him, they found him out there. He'd been assassinated or shot.
Wow.
It was pretty Wild West town back then.
Yeah, rough place.
And then we had a train that would come through Smyrna, and they called them Hell on Wheels. Have you ever heard that term?
Yeah.
Well, Hell on Wheels was when you had criminals that would come through here like Al Capone, and he'd have 3 boxcars. One boxcar had prostitutes in it. It was fixed up real nice. One had for gambling, and then one had for alcohol and drinking. You know, it was a bar. So that's when they referred to it as Hell on Wheels,
Wow.
is because it was,
And they'd hit each town and
yeah,
do all kinds of business.
do all kinds of business, whatever your pleasure at the time.
Oh, wow.
But they stopped in Smyrna quite frequently.
That's wild.
Yeah.
Hell on wheels.
Do you remember that interview you did a few years ago with Ernie Johns? Remember that? And he talked about the history going from Smyrna through Laverne back to Nashville. Remember y'all talked about some of that?
I didn't know it, but Laverne had a train depot too.
Really?
Yeah, yeah.
Wow.
It, they developed in the land where that depot was, and of course, you know, they bulldozed it down.
Yeah.
Laverne used to be called McKenna'sville. That was the name before somebody from France came over and
Okay.
they changed
I've heard
the
of that Mechanicsville, but I didn't realize that was Laverne.
Yeah, that was Laverne. And it was named for the postmaster.
Okay.
Yeah. And you know, going down that Bill Road was Mechanicsville
Okay.
before you got to Emmetsville.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was a lot of interesting names, but the only thing I've never been able to find out, I just felt sure you would know, is how Chicken Pie got its name.
I would say because it was so dangerous that, you know, and there's probably some people that were too chicken to go on it. I was almost one of those people that was too chicken. No, I'm not driving down there. You can't tell what's coming under, and it's just one car, and there's a curve there, and you got to honk your horn. And how many accidents were there?
Oh, it's had to be a bunch.
I mean, it's still there, but it's all grown up in it, weeds and stuff.
You know, you brought up an interesting point. I wonder if kids got named Chicken Pie because kids said, let's play chicken. And they would gun it going through the tunnel.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's
It's
interesting.
probably something to do with the vehicle and a dare, maybe.
Yeah.
I dare you. Oh, you're chicken. You know?
Very well could be. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that about wraps it up for me. What about you?
Yeah, I just wanted, if people wanted to learn more, you know.
Smyrna history.
Yeah, then we got these 2 books, and you know, Town of Smyrna's got a video series too.
Yeah.
And also, one more thing. You know, there's talk that we need a museum in Smyrna, and people have been talking, you know, and a lot of people have collections, and they'd like to put them in a safe place. And
Well, I
So-
think a museum would be great. I really do. You know, we just took the Rutherford County Courthouse.
and I have not been there yet.
Oh, you gotta go.
I know. I wanted to go that afternoon when the ribbon cutting. I
Yeah.
didn't. I think I ended up out of town or something. But
You know,
is it open 7 days a week?
Yeah.
Or I mean, I could go on a Sunday. That's
We have
One
security
day I
down
take
there.
off.
We've got security and everything else. But right before COVID hit, we were working with the mayor, the county mayor at the time, and Greg Tucker, he asked Greg Tucker and I to put the museum together.
Wow.
So we got started on it, we was getting all these donations, and then COVID came along and they just shut everything down and we had to stop and start all over again. But boy, you ought to see it now. That museum is something to really be proud of.
And are the collections changing out too, or does everything stay the same? Or some museums they'll have different collections come in.
Oh yeah, we got different rooms. Yeah,
Yeah,
I'm sorry, I didn't understand what you was asking, but no, we got a first floor, we got a second floor, and then we're looking at the third
It's
floor.
that big, okay.
It's that big. And
Well, it's a
lot
great
of
great way to utilize the courthouse. I mean, we have such a beautiful courthouse.
Oh, it's
I
gorgeous.
just never get tired of looking at pictures.
I enjoy hearing
Courthouse.
the old timers talk about it being haunted. I like that, you know.
Yeah, you like ghost things.
And
Ghost
down
stories.
in the basement, they say down in the basement of that courthouse is really haunted. And
Wow.
you know, they found that old well, the old cistern or whatever you want to call it. They didn't even know it was there, and they were doing some maintenance work,
Yeah,
and they found the well.
yeah. Wow.
Yeah, that was really interesting about that. I wish we could get a museum in Smyrna, you know. And you're right, there's a lot of people with a lot of historical artifacts.
I hate to criticize our younger generation, but there's, history's, I don't know, history's not that important to them, or they don't want stuff. They're like, I mean, you gotta commend them for like wanting to maybe live simpler, there. But you might have something and your children don't want that. They don't want that old chest or, I don't know.
I know, they don't.
We have to have a place.
I bought a chest at an auction here in Smyrna, it's a big one, but somebody had painted it white. So I put it in my motorhome. I was just going to use it. It was cedar, and I was, every once in a while you got mice that get in your motorhome and stuff like that. And so I put it in there, and
You could put your clothes and they'd be safe.
Yeah.
Yeah, from mobs and
But when I was
mice.
putting it in the motorhome, I had it upside down looking at it, and it was a prototype from the Smyrna.
Lane cedar?
Yeah, Lane
Oh
Cedar.
my gosh.
It said #1,
Oh wow.
I call it a pound sign. It's got a different name now, whatever.
Yeah.
But it had #1 prototype.
Wow. That sounds valuable.
Yeah. I don't know if it's valuable or not, but it's in my motorhome, and I got a lot of clothes, stuck in that thing to keep the mice out.
Yeah.
I used to carry a cat with me when I would travel.
Uh-huh.
I found a snake in there one time.
Oh no. I hate snakes. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's right.
But I thought that was interesting. I don't know if it's worth anything, but if we did have a museum, I'd have it stripped down, have somebody clean it up and put it in the museum.
Yeah.
But yeah, Lane Cedar Mill, boy. Remember they had the whistle for noon, and the whistle to go to work, and the whistle to get off work.
I've seen comments on Facebook where people said, well, we knew when to eat lunch, and we knew when we needed to be
Yeah.
home, out playing or something by the whistle. Yeah, that's some
Well,
interesting
that's a nice
stories.
apartment complex, so they put there, real nice.
It is, yeah.
Super nice, yeah.
Another change in Smyrna.
All right?
Yeah, that wraps
Thank
it
you,
up then. Yeah, thank you.
Been
I
good
enjoyed
chatting
talking
with
with you and
Reminiscent.
glad that Herb can preserve this
Well,
history.
introduce yourselves, because maybe somebody seen this won't know who you are, except two people
Are you
sitting there.
serious? They wouldn't know who she is or I am? Yeah.
Well, it might be some new people, you don't know.
Oh, that's true. That's true.
All right, this is Marty Luffman, State Farm right here in Smyrna. He's Rutherford County historian, Smyrna historian, Nashville
In
historian,
Nashville.
and there's what did I miss?
Well, Rutherford County, Smyrna,
Yeah,
Nashville,
Yeah.
and Tennessee,
Murfreesboro.
Murfreesboro.
He's a ghost hunter.
Yeah, I love those.
And then Ginny Williams with Ace Hardware right here in Smyrna. And thank both of you. And thank y'all.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
That's it, folks. Hope you enjoyed it.